If there's a place in the world that is both beautiful and rich, yet mysterious and unapproachable, it is Switzerland. A small country, nestled in the middle of Europe, but never fully integrated with the world around it. Switzerland is known for its peaceful image, picturesque villages, quiet banks, luxury watches, sweet chocolate. But behind that seemingly perfect beauty lies a strange truth. The Swiss are very afraid of foreigners. It may seem a bit too much to say that they are afraid, but it is true that the people here do not like strangers invading their world. That is why, despite having a population of just over 8 million, they have always kept a certain distance from the outside world. They chose to be neutral in wars, but built a defense system so strong that no one dares to touch it. They have a lot of immigrants, but becoming a full-fledged Swiss citizen is almost impossible. So what makes a country so wealthy, yet so wary of the outside world? Switzerland is perhaps the most unusually defensive country in the world. It took no sides during both world wars, but that doesn't mean it was weak. On the contrary, it prepared for war more carefully than even the countries that fought in it. If you fly over Switzerland, you will see a peaceful land with green meadows, clear lakes, and majestic mountains. But there is a little-known fact. Those mountains are actually underground military bases. The Swiss have carved out a network of bunkers, weapons depots, and strategic tunnels into the mountains. Not only that, every major bridge in Switzerland has been rigged with explosives, so that if a foreign army were to enter, they could immediately blow it up. This means that if anyone were to invade Switzerland, they would encounter a country that has turned itself into a defensive maze that is difficult to penetrate. Every Swiss man undergoes mandatory military training, and even after his service, he keeps a gun in his home in case he needs to fight. And in case of war, the whole country can become a fortress with millions of soldiers in just a few days. But they do not do this to fight anyone. They did not join the European Union, did not join NATO until 2002, and finally joined the United Nations. But that does not mean they are weak. On the contrary, they're so strong that no one wants to cause trouble. There is another interesting thing about Switzerland that few people know. They do not like foreigners to invade their world. This is not only reflected in neutrality in war, but also in immigration policies, cultural behavior, and even the way locals treat their neighbors. In simple terms, if you travel to Switzerland, they will still welcome you with stunning landscapes, luxurious hotels, and impeccable service. But if you want to live here long-term, you will quickly realize that they do not really want new neighbors. In Europe, many countries have quite open immigration policies. As long as you live long enough, pay taxes, and have a stable job, you will soon be granted permanent residency or citizenship. But in Switzerland, the process is so complicated and harsh that many people give up halfway. Normally, to become a Swiss citizen, you have to live in the country for at least 12 years. That may not sound like a long time, but time is only part of the equation. You have to prove that you have fully integrated into the Swiss culture. This means learning the local language. And Switzerland has 4 official languages: German, French, Italian, and Romance. The second is understanding the local culture, from how to sort trash to how to communicate with neighbors. Third, no criminal record. Even a minor traffic violation can affect the approval process. And finally, the acceptance of the local population. That means your neighbors also have a say in whether you are worthy of becoming a Swiss or not. Imagine you have lived in Switzerland for 20 years, speak Swiss fluently, have a good job. But if the community where you live doesn't like you for some reason, they may object to your naturalization, and your application will be rejected. The story of Nancy Halton, a Dutch woman who lived in Switzerland for 39 years, is a clear example. She was denied citizenship because she was too active in protecting animals and objected to the local tradition of cows wearing bells around their necks. Her neighbors felt she was not Swiss enough, and so she was not accepted as a citizen of the country. Not only in immigration policy, but also in daily life, the Swiss do not like the intrusion of foreigners. In many European countries, such as Spain or Italy, people are generally very open, ready to chat with their neighbors or invite friends over for dinner. But in Switzerland, this is a luxury. If you move to a Swiss residential area, you can live next door to your neighbors for years, but never receive a friendly greeting. It's not that they hate you, it's just that they don't like being too familiar with strangers. There are people who have lived in Switzerland for many years, and every day they try to greet their neighbors when they see them, but none of them really want to greet them back. They just nod slightly or look away. Many residential areas even have a clear decision not to disturb neighbors. If you play music too loud, walk your dog too loudly, or even do your laundry at the wrong time, you could be warned or even sued. Another oddity is that many parts of Switzerland prohibit foreigners from buying houses. If you're not Swiss, you will face many barriers when it comes to owning a property here. This is to prevent foreigners from invading local residential areas and to preserve the Swiss identity. Even if you have a legal work permit, you may still be refused a rental property because the landlord does not want foreigners to live there. In other cases, such as government jobs or certain professions, which are almost exclusively for Swiss nationals, no matter how talented or rich you are, you can still be refused just because you're not a native. But why is Switzerland so closed off? Because this country has a long tradition of protecting its national identity, avoiding outside influence. Throughout history, they have tried to remain neutral, not participating in wars. This helps them avoid conflicts, but also makes them form a habit of distrusting outsiders. In addition, as a rich country with a stable economy and high living standards, they do not want too many foreigners coming and changing their social security system. The Swiss government also always listens to the opinions of the people, and many referendums show that the Swiss do not want many immigrants. One of the famous referendums took place in 2014 and even had a result of over half. 51% of people want to limit immigration from the European Union, even though the EU is their largest economic area. This shows that they are willing to trade economic ties to protect the purity of the country. They have many big banks, but they are a haven for secret accounts. They have international organizations such as FIFA, but they do not participate in international organizations too deeply. That is also a contradiction of Switzerland. In particular, although located right in the middle of Europe, Switzerland has never joined the Union, Europe. They do not want to be influenced by the politics and economics of other countries. Even when a referendum was held on joining the United Nations, only about 55% of the population voted in favor, showing that they are still very hesitant about opening up to the outside world. So is it worth living in Switzerland? Switzerland is indeed a great place to live, but it is not for everyone. If you like a quiet, stable, high-income place, this is a great choice. But if you want openness, easy connection, and integration, Switzerland can be a bit cold. Sailors are polite, but very distant. Life here is rich, but expensive, with Zurich consistently ranking among the most expensive cities in the world. If you're an expat, you can live comfortably, but it is difficult to become part of them. All in all, Switzerland is probably the most mysterious country in Europe. They are rich, but unwilling to share. They are neutral, but have strong defenses. They accept many foreigners, but are not really open and welcoming. It is a land of opposites, where wealth does not come with openness. If you had the chance, would you like to live in Switzerland? Or do you think the country is still too closed to be a good place to live?